From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home. Because the critical thing we must do to stop the disease spreading between households. That is why people will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes. Shopping for basic necessities as infrequently as possible. One form of exercise a day, for example, a run, walk, or cycle, alone or with members of your household. Any medical to provide care or to help a vulnerable person. And travelling to and from work, but only where this is absolutely necessary and cannot be done from home. That's all.
Hello again my YouTube lovelies, and welcome to this vlog number 18, Days in Isolation. I guess I want to start first of all by apologising to those of you that have been waiting for uploads to happen on a weekly basis, and there's been somewhat a bit of a dry spell from me. Don't really know why, to be honest with you. I think during this lockdown, about halfway through, I just got to a point where I just lacked motivation, to be honest with you, lacked any enthusiasm to do anything. So I just took a break, really. Ultimately, I'm not really to any timeline. I don't really adhere to anybody's demands with regards to pumping out content. I just do what I do when I feel that I want to. And yeah, just got to a bit of a lull, really. Nothing to do with the fact that there's not enough material or anything like that, because I've got loads of stuff that I want to do. Just got bored for a while, to be honest with you. So I thought I'd do this vlog just to sort of keep you up to date as to where I am, what I'm doing, what I'm planning to do, etc. And kind of give you a sort of a snapshot into the period of isolation that I've had to go through, along with every other chap on this planet. So, where are we? We're still on my mum's driveway in a little cul-de-sac in a small village in Essex, and it's been really, really good, to be honest with you. It's been the perfect place to keep my head down, I guess, and keep out of mischief. It's now day 68 of lockdown, or not lockdown, I don't know. We are in lockdown, we're not in lockdown, we are in lockdown, we're not, I don't know. Depends who you believe and what your motivation is. But anyway, I still considered myself locked down. And I guess the first part of moving in here, what was it, the 24th of March, it's really to set up camp and to get myself settled. Now, my camp is not anything like Amber East, but there's aspects of my camp which I think are quite luxurious, maybe, in some respect. I chose to come here mainly through the convenience, knowing that it was a sort of fairly quiet place. I wasn't going to get hassled. My mum had a big enough driveway, and I have the use of electric, which I'm plugged into the garage. I run an Ethernet cable from my van into the house, into the router, so I have good solid internet connection, although that's dubious due to the location of where we are. I had the added luxury of a toilet that I could use just through the front door in the hallway, a kitchen that I could use now and then to cook tea if I wanted to, and the use of a shower. So nice little luxuries really that I wouldn't normally have when I'm on the road, unless I've gone to a campsite. So I guess that's really that was the first part of my 10-week lockdown. Was the first week was really settling in, tweaking a few things in the van, making an office space which I could potentially still stay in touch with work in one way or another, and still had a good means of communication and the link to the outside world. So that was good. So a few amendments were made in the van to facilitate that with regards to power, etc. And then coming into week 2, I sort of settled myself down into a routine. I guess for myself, maybe I am a creature of habit, I don't know, but there are sort of certain things that I like to be able to do, or certain treats or comforts that I like to be able to afford, and some of those aren't necessarily monetary in any way, it's just a way of living, I guess. And so for me sometimes having a routine of doing something is kind of something that keeps me sort of on the straight and level, so to speak. So that was kind of important to set myself this routine. So I would wake myself up at a reasonable time in the morning. The alarm was always set so I wouldn't sleep in, though I have slept in a few times. But for the most part, I would get up at a reasonable time. Would go into the house, have my morning ablution, and wash any pots or pans that I had from the night before, and get myself a coffee on the go. And then would come back into the van and settle down for a work-related Zoom tea break, let's call it. Just a chance to sort of catch up and see familiar faces and get the lowdown, if there was a lowdown of anything that was happening at work. Bearing in mind that my work, the department that I work for, everyone was sent home. So I've been very lucky to be in a position where I've been paid still, and many of us in my department have that ability to be able to work from home. Now for me it's slightly different because mine's a lot more of a manual labour kind of job, so I've struggled on that front, but needless to say I'm very grateful for the fact that I've still been paid, which has been good. So when I'm sort of stationary for a while and not particularly active, I tend not to eat that much, to be honest with you, so lunchtimes were sort of fairly minimal, light affairs. And then the afternoon was spent with doing some editing, bits of writing, lots of telly watching. And like telly for me is YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, you name it. So a lot of that. And at least 3 walks, or at least leaving this space and going for a walk 3 times a week. So I minimised as much as possible any chance of any contact with anyone outside of here. Those walks soon became runs, and I'd have this routine of basically running 3 times a week. I'd go for not a long one, just a 3-mile run down to the marina and back up. And those were the days that I really looked forward to some extent. The thought of going for a run sometimes for me is sort of like, oh god, I really don't want to. But then once I'm in the run, a mile or so into it, and then certainly when I get back blowing out of my arse, I am incredibly grateful that I've done it and feel really good, and have a shower, etc. Come back to the van, cook some tea, and then settle down for an evening of either editing, but predominantly just watching telly, and the occasional phone call with a friend. Those have been brilliant. I'll go on to those later on. I've used this time to do some jobs on the van. Not many, to be honest with you, just a few jobs. It's had a clean, believe it or not. I even waxed it. You can see it there behind me. It doesn't look particularly special in any kind of way, but believe me, I actually waxed it. So it's had 2 really good washes. I boot polished, thanks Luke for the tip. I boot polished all of the bumpers, so they're looking all splendid. Redid my wheels again, and just gave it a really good clean, both inside and out. Got up on the roof, gave that a really good scrub down, etc. Been getting on the roof quite regularly actually, just to sort of clean the solar panel for optimum results. But just little odd jobs, to be honest with you. There was so many little things that I'd love to have done, but I've used this period of time to sort of save money. So as tempting as it is to do so many jobs in the van, I chose to not do those jobs, put them off, do smaller jobs that didn't cost as much, and have used the time to basically pay 2 overdrafts off, pay 3 credit cards off, and pay off the van loan, believe it or not. So finally put myself into a position where the whole point of moving into a van in the first place was to save money. I'm now finally at that point where I can actually start saving money 2 years down the line. God, it's taken so long. But anyway, we're there now, and we're at the point of why I started this particular journey in the first place, which is good. So that's a kind of a plus to come out of this period of lockdown. I've done little jobs like fixing the bike up, giving the bike a really good clean, just little tweaks that I wanted to do in the garage. Very, very minor alterations, but for me they sort of mean quite a lot. Made a few fuck-ups along the way. One major one where I managed to jigsaw through the control cable of my diesel heater. I wasn't particularly happy with myself that day. I did take myself away and have a word, but fortunately I was able to fix it. What have been the highlights? Highlights of this time? I guess deliveries in a way. Amazon deliveries, packages arriving, food packages arriving. I did struggle with food for a while because I wasn't able to get onto any of the sort of mainstream Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, you name it, all of these delivery schemes. And so fortunately I still had enough provisions from my original stocking up trip that I had to Wales before the lockdown started, and I found some alternative methods and companies where I would get packages delivered of various bits and pieces, so they were nice to look forward to. And about halfway through lockdown I discovered Mindful Chef, so I gave those a go, and I then changed over to Gusto, and that's been a real highlight, that package arriving and then being able to use the facilities of my mum's kitchen and doing some really nice cooking and cooking for myself and having a really nice, healthy, balanced diet. That's been a real highlight for me. It's been lovely to be able to have the use of a kitchen and just cook properly for once, and kind of live normal for once. So that was nice. The occasional takeaway. Sometimes the door would go there and I would be inside the van and I could hear the door go and my mum shouting, "Do you fancy a takeaway, Rob?" They were nice highlights. Other than that, not really much more. Watching aeroplanes come by under the flight path of one of the arrivals to Heathrow Airport here, so I got my fix of aviation every day, watching planes go over. I sometimes sit with the scanner trying to tune in and listen to them. Not far from another airport here where sometimes some stuff would fly fairly low over. But that was it really. Not a lot happens here. It's just a very quiet cul-de-sac in a little village, so not a lot goes on. So what have been the lows? I guess the weekend of May the 16th was a low because that was when Camp Quirky was supposed to take place. And it was also the beginning of my holiday to go and see my children in Jakarta. Towards the end of March, or was it April, I think, beginning of April, I'd already got notification that my flights had been cancelled, and the closer the date loomed as to when I was meant to be flying out there on May the 18th, my heart began to sink even more and more. Just the prospect of not seeing my kids again was really, really difficult to deal with. And even now, just not knowing when I'm going to see my children again, that was a low that I struggled with, and probably still am struggling with, to tell you the truth. And I guess another low is being here. As much as people appreciate their parents, etc., the relationship that I have with my mum is hard to explain, I guess. But I won't delve into it too much. But let's put it this way: this place is somewhere that I choose not to come to that often. I choose the times that I come here carefully, and so to be here for 10 weeks was quite an undertaking, to say the least. It's been really difficult to see my mum's life to some extent almost under a microscope, and seeing it up close and seeing it day in, day out, and the routine that she goes through. And it's been quite hard, to be honest with you, and it's been very sad to witness. It's quite distressing at times, and I think that has had a toll on me over the last few weeks. Certainly the sort of latter half of this 10-week period, I've just found it increasingly more difficult. I mean, lockdown for my mother is a strange thing, because she doesn't go out that much anyway. In fact, in the 10 weeks that I've been here, I don't think she's left the house once in that whole 10-week period. So this particular scenario that we're in makes no difference to her, to be honest with you. But it has been hard to see this demise and slow suffering of someone, and frustrating at the same time, not being able to do something about it, or even if you give advice, none of that being acted on in the time that you've been here. It's quite hard to see that. So that's been a low, to be honest with you. Have I learnt anything over this 10 weeks? I wonder. I think I have. I've learnt a lot about myself. I've realised how complicated I can be. I've had to sit and ponder sometimes and think about myself and the situation I'm in, and give that some thought, and give my future some thought, and the future of those around me. I think the hardest thing, to some extent, that I found over this lockdown is it's the things that I've learnt about myself, but I guess it's also the witnessing of other things, and this sort of the opening up and the realisation of things happening around me that's we quite often take for granted, and I think I found that quite difficult, to be honest with you. There was a period of time I was watching lots of van life videos and stuff, and I tried to support my van life community as much as possible by watching content. They got to a point where I was just getting fed up with it, and I had to give it a rest, and that then got replaced with watching all kinds of random things, people's opinions about this situation that we're in and other things, and it just gets you thinking, and it gets to a point where I just got so confused and so didn't know who to believe anymore, really. And there was a point that I just had to just sort of just stop watching media or anything related to what's going on at the moment. And it's not so much as closing my eyes and covering my ears to not want to know what's going on. It was just because it just got to a point where I just didn't know what to believe anymore. So I felt it easier just to sort of take myself away from that situation if possible. And I don't talk about mental health, and probably won't on this channel, to be honest with you, because it's something I keep very personal. But it's certainly something that has come to the forefront over this period of time, and certainly haven't been helped with a lot of the stuff that I've been watching on YouTube, etc., and reading on the internet. The other thing that's been quite difficult, I guess, is watching the trials and tribulations of my van life community as well. I feel like I've whipped out a little bit, because I've taken this really sort of comfortable way out, I guess, to keep myself safe, be in a position where I'm able to look out for my mum, etc. But I've felt very sort of privileged to be able to have this here and these facilities, and it's quite harrowing sometimes when you're witnessing your fellow community being moved on from pillar to post and having to go through all the daily upheaval. It's very, very disappointing to witness all of that. So I will say to all you guys out there that I'm with you on this one, and my heart goes out to you guys, because I think you've done a sterling job having to battle through all the shite that you've had to put up with. It's bad enough being in this predicament, to then have to put up with all of the shit that everyone else has deemed almost like a hobby of picking on this particular community, which has been really upsetting. But anyway, we'll end this on a cheery note, shall we? Someone said, actually, you don't smile enough in your videos, Rob. You're always very surly. Well, that is sort of my natural resting expression, surliness. But anyway, let's end on a smiley, happy note, shall we? What's happening now? Where are we going? What's the future? I'm going to be moving on from here. It's now Saturday the 30th of May. On Monday I'm going to move on. I'm going to an undisclosed location, change of scenery, good distance away from here, and hopefully will be the proverbial kick up the arse that I need to start churning out more content, uploading a bit more regularly. And for those of you that are waiting with bated breath, and don't hold your breath on this one, but season 2 of the build will come very soon, I promise you. And but yeah, I'll be moving on come Monday. I'm just waiting for some packages to arrive, and I've got a visit to the pharmacy to pick up a prescription, and then hopefully Monday, Tuesday next week I'll be in a different location. Hopefully I'll be back at work August, September time, who knows. All of that is up in the air, so we really don't know, but fingers crossed it might be September. So I'm not quite in a position to be on the road in my normal sort of normal daily living mode. I'm still going to be keeping myself isolated and safe for a while, and I just want to say thank you to those of you who have phoned me regularly. You guys know who you are, and you know, you've really made this period of time for me very, very bearable by having a regular contact and being able to talk to you, and having that other person on the phone has been really, really important for me. So for you who have phoned me, thank you very much, because that's been really, really appreciated, and I think the bond of our friendship has grown stronger during these times, so I'm really, really grateful for that, so thank you. A shout out to anyone out there that has helped fellow van lifers in the predicament and the trials and tribulations that they've had to go through. Thanks very much for you guys, for the help that you've done. And shout out to van lifers in general, you know, whether you've got a YouTube channel or not, you know, the people that have been out there, that have been churning out regular content, keeping us abreast of what's going on in the real world, and fighting the good cause. You know, thanks very much, because it certainly kept me entertained, and has given me something to shout about, and get annoyed about, and be angry about, and everything like that. So cheers guys. If you've watched this for the first time, please like, comment and subscribe. Even if you've watched this and you watch my stuff, just please like, comment and subscribe. I try my best to reply to all the comments. I will go back through, because there are a bunch of comments that I need to answer. I will do that. There will be more videos. I will get out of this particular hole that I'm in at the moment, and the content will come back to your screens. And I just wish you all a safe onward journey from wherever you're going, if you're going to be moving on, etc. And hopefully the opportunity will arise soon where we can all get together and meet up at some point. So stay safe, look after each other, stay out of mischief, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.